Uh, so we're still pretty remote. At a second choice, wasn't even a second choice destination. It was kind of like a Hail Mary due to some miscommunication with the bush plane business. We couldn't get into the destination that I needed to get into, so it kind of squished the plans. But we went on some pretty kick-ass hike the other day, and I can probably show you some footage of that later on. But so now, since we're gonna have to fly out. There's not much we can do here, so we're not gonna waste your time here. And then we'll carry on again a little later in the season. So it's no big deal, no big great loss. It's like same old with anything. The more you do, the more you learn, and most of us learn by trial and error. So I gained a pile of knowledge from this trip so far, and obviously I will be back, but it's another topic. But anyway, so I have probably, I'll bet you I have 400 emails on my phone and my notes from people that I haven't even touched, and I'm going to take a few minutes here to share these. I got the gun here. Actually, coincidentally, there's a lake right here. I'll show that in another email. And about a medium-sized grizzly just came walking right along the shoreline here up to our tents, well, up to our camp, just shy, and took off behind me once it saw us, which is good. But I'm not too worried, but you always have the old equalizer not too far away when you're this remote, right? Now, anyways, listen to this email. I titled it Incredible. I'm going to tell my story for the first time in 20 years. Like you, I'm not to be the butt of their jokes or made fun of. If you don't believe me, then F off. That is why I decided to write to you. I'll try to make it short and quick. I worked construction for many years in South California. Your recent story from a person who said, quote, "They are closer than you think," end quote, is true. I was working a secluded custom house. It was a site close to the Palomar Mountains. I would often take off early on Fridays to explore the country whenever I was near the mountains, beaches, city, whatever, and whenever I had the chance. This Friday, I took off early due to the materials had not come for the roof. I basically just picked up my truck, waited till 8:30 for the materials. They said they were coming, but when I told them I'm on the clock, they let me bail out. The guy I was working for said there was a great hiking trail about 5 miles up an old forestry road. He said it had a cliff near the top with a great view. Making it short, I found the road and made it to the trail. It was around 11 o'clock a.m. when I found the cliff view. The trail went straight up the cliff and then it turned left. The trail ran along the cliff for about 200 yards, then turned left and went up to the top of a ridge. The view there was equally and great. I sat at the top and ate a sandwich and had a soda. I love the wild much more than any cities. While I was sitting there, I heard someone walking around behind me. It seemed strange because the brush was pretty thick. It could have been kids from the area just messing around on another trail. Then things got weird. I saw rocks fly off the cliff and heard branches being broke. They were throwing them off the ridge as I thought it was teenagers having fun. It took a minute, but I realized... Oops. It took a minute, but I realized no man could throw such large branches and rocks. I mean, one rock was twice the size of a bowling ball, and it flew a couple 100 yards straight off the edge. Wow. At this point, I turned around and saw something very large move behind a tree. I grabbed my shit and started walking down. As I walked, I could see it out of the corner of my eye. It was following me. I heard what sounded like very large branches being broke. I turned, and through the shadows of the trees I saw it. Not the face, but a large person, about 8 feet tall and big. This was no bear or anything I ever saw, and it scared the shit out of me. I started to run, and it stayed next to me about 15 yards to my right, keeping pace with me. I was coming to the cliff, and instead of trying to make the corner, I decided to go to the right of a tree and jumped over a small down tree and cut the corner. The cliff was coming up fast, and as I started to turn and make my jump, another smaller person, about 4 feet tall, popped out on the same side I was going. It happened so fast I tried to miss it, and I jumped to the right and rolled in the air. I ended up hitting another tree and was out cold. Now I bet you think that's my story, but not just yet. I woke up, and it was almost dark. My head hurt, and when I touched my head, I could feel dried blood. As I started to stand, I realized that I was not where I fell. I was laying near the bottom of the trail, almost at my truck. I thought, what the F? It had to have been a nightmare. But my head was bleeding, and I was nowhere near where it happened. I struggled and made it to my truck. I grabbed a small first aid kit and looked in the mirror. What the F? I got out of the truck and looked at the larger side mirror. That's when I saw it, a fingerprint right in the middle of my head in dried blood. It was the tip and had to have been 3 inches across. It was light, but it was there. I stared at it for about 10 minutes. At this point, I don't know what to think. So I cleaned my head and the print, got my truck started, and sat there staring at the woods. I could swear I saw the shadow of the Bigfoot far back in the woods, almost like it was making sure I was okay. I felt very safe and relaxed. I'm not sure why. It was a very strange feeling, like I was being helped. Anyway, I didn't see the face or even a good look at the big one. The small one's face was kind of burned into my memory. It looked like little kid who was thinking, oh shit, I'm going to get ran over. But I missed him or her, and I think this is why it helped me. After hearing you, I can tell my story, but I'm not going to tell anyone else. I just don't care to make people believe me. At this point, the Bigfoot gets more respect from me than any human. I don't care if you read this story on your channel. It just helps to get it out to someone who knows the truth about these people. I'm sure, just like people, they are good, some are bad, and some just want to make things right. Thanks for listening. Keep up the good work. You're helping a lot of people by just believing the truth. Craig San Diego. That's a crazy story, Craig. What a wild experience. There you go. There's another one. Right? And another one of not so uncommon to hear of a friendly jester or, an encounter where these beings, these people, whatever they are, they don't harm another human being, but instead they kind of help them. And that reminds me of a story I read a long time ago. I forget where I read it. But it's a story. I might have even mentioned this in one of the videos. And it was about a guy solo hiking, and I think he broke his ankle or something around that effect. And of course, no communication devices or anything. And he said that a super large 8 or 9 foot tall female, one of these beings, picked him up like a child and carried him to the main park trailhead and laid him down on the side of the trail. And he said that not too long after this thing did that with him, that a couple hikers came along and found him. And as they were helping him, he could see 2 of them back in the forest, keeping an eye on him, and they disappeared. So it's not uncommon for these experiences to be evil or aggressive, right? I mean, let's face it. If any human being's out in the middle of nowhere like I am now, and you hear trees getting beat on or boulders getting thrown, predators don't do that. Predators don't pre-warn the game they want to kill. So, although it's unnerving, and I've experienced the tree beating big time, and it scares the living shit out of you. It's very intimidating. But let's face it, there isn't a successful predator in existence that's going to pre-warn its prey that it wants to kill by throwing rocks or trees, right? So, whatever is happening there with those things flying off the cliff, I don't know. Haven't a clue. Don't know. Was it possibly showing the young one how easy it is to scare a human being creature and make him leave? Possibly. I don't know. But thank your lucky stars that sucker helped you out and helped you down the mountain and back to safety. It's crazy. What a crazy experience. But anyway, I'm going to dig in my phone and I'm going to find another one. And thanks, Craig, for sharing your story. Obviously, you know what it's like to have a safe place to go with your experience and share it, obviously. And you sharing here is going to help somebody just like you somewhere around the planet. Guaranteed.